One of the most interesting things about Thomas is the fact that the engines technically have brothers and sisters. Not just twin engines, but brothers and even cousins too. Now this might seem like a bizarre concept, but it's actually rooted in real life machines. Similar to ships like Titanic, who had two sister ships in real life, the same general rule is also true for Thomas, like Donald and Douglas for example, or Gordon and the Flying Scotsman. But what is it that makes these engines brothers with another engine? Is it because of the way they were designed? Is it because they were designed by the same person? Or is it a mix of the two? Well, that's what we're going to go through today. I'll be going through Gordon's family tree as a point of reference, as it's by far one of the most complicated family trees in the Thomas series. So, let's begin. Oh brother, where art thou? Now, the first mention of engines having brothers dates back to the Railway series book, The Twin Engines, where it's mentioned that Donald and Douglas are twins. This concept of the engines having brothers would later be fleshed out in the book Enterprising Engines, where Gordon's brother, the Flying Scotsman, visits Sodor after Gordon learns of his brothers being scrapped.
All my Doncaster brothers, drawn the same time as me, all gone.
This element of Gordon's characterization was not present in the TV series, where he seemingly doesn't even know his own brother.
"Those tenders belong to a visitor," replied his driver.
Now this was because the model of Flying Scotsman was never finished, and only the two tenders and the face were ever done. It wasn't until the Great Race in 2016 when it was confirmed that he was in fact his brother in the TV series.
This is my brother. They call him the Flying Scotsman.
I think the reason the TV show glossed over the concept of family, other than the model not being finished, was because I think the concept of engines having brothers and sisters starts to make people ask weird questions like, is there a such thing as a mammy train or a daddy train? Well, the simple answer is no. As I said about the Titanic, she had two sister ships, Britannic and Olympic. They were called sister ships because they were all designed by the same crowd and were basically the same ship. And the same rule is true for Thomas. So, this is Gordon on the family tree, and this is the Flying Scotsman. Now, what is it that makes these two brothers? Well, that would be their designer, Sir Nigel Gresley. And since quote-unquote sons inherit their father's names, that would make the brothers Gordon Gresley and Flying Scotsman Gresley, respectively. And I must say, Gordon Gresley has a really nice ring to it. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking, what about Gordon's other brothers? And you're right, Gordon had 79 other brothers, and some of them include, but are not limited to, the Flying Scotsman, the Flying Fox, the Flying Thistle, the Knight of Thistles, the White Knight, Robert the Devil, Hermit, Dick Turpin, the Gay Crusader, and my absolute favourite, Sandwich. 'Cause why not? But since none of these engines were ever really mentioned in canon, besides that one line from Enterprising Engines, I decided to mark them down as just Gordon's brothers. But Gordon's brothers weren't the only Gresleys in the show. This is where I talk about the cousins. Other Gresleys? This is where the family tree starts to get complicated. You see, according to this magazine profile, it confirms that Spencer is Gordon's cousin. It was a pretty common fan theory in the fandom that Spencer was Gordon's cousin, and according to this magazine profile, it seemingly confirms that Spencer is in fact his cousin, putting him here on the family tree. I find it slightly weird that Gordon and Spencer are cousins, since it never really felt like they even knew each other in the show.
Who are you? This is Spencer. He's the fastest engine in the world.
But I guess it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, since I'm sure we all have cousins who we don't really know about. However, Gordon and Spencer being cousins really opens a can of worms in the series, and you'll understand more when I go on. What about Mallard, I hear you ask? Well, since Spencer is the fastest steam engine in the world, there's been much debate as to whether or not Spencer is the TV series equivalent of Mallard.
Spencer still holds the world land speed record for steam locomotives.
But since it was confirmed in a character encyclopedia that they are indeed brothers, we can put the idea to rest. This would make Mallard a brother to Spencer and a distant cousin of Gordon and Flying Scotsman. Mallard made his only appearance in Thomas and the Great Railway Show, where he met Green Arrow, another Gresley engine, making Green Arrow Gresley another cousin of Gordon. Now I'm sure you're thinking, this is pretty crazy, but what if I told you that Ryan, yes, Ryan Ryan was also related to Gordon. While it's never been mentioned anywhere in any magazines or any episodes of the show, if we're to assume that Spencer is also Gordon's cousin, then it's pretty safe to say that Ryan is also a distant cousin of Gordon. So Ryan goes here on the family tree. See what I mean by a can of worms? And yeah, that's where the Gresley part of the family tree ends. However, there is just one more part of the Gresley tree we need to talk about, and it's actually kind of an important one. Henry the cousin. Now this is where things get really interesting, and it has to do with Henry's origins. According to Audrey, Henry came about when a rival builder stole the wrong plans off Gresley and had an engine built in secret. This engine was a poor steamer and was sold to the Fat Controller on the cheap. Who was this rival builder? How did they somehow steal the plans? And how did they build a loco in secret? Don't know, but that's Henry's origin. He's apparently a Gresley, even though he wasn't built by him. Since these plans were drawn up by Gresley, that technically makes Henry part of the Gresley family tree. And it makes him a cousin to Gordon, or half-brother? I don't really know, to be honest. But regardless, he is a part of the tree. I kind of like the idea of Henry and Gordon being distant cousins. It adds a lot to their dynamic, I think. Since we don't have a name or a picture of his builder, I'm just going to put down this shrugging meme guy as his father. So as we all know, after Henry had his crash with the Flying Kipper, he was sent away to Crewe, where he was somehow rebuilt into an LMS-5. Now this has been another hot topic in the fandom as to whether or not Henry was the same engine. It's kind of a Trigger's broom situation, where if you remove all the parts from the engine, is it really the same engine?
This old broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time.
How the hell can it be the same bloody broom?
Well, here's a picture of it. What more proof do you need?
But regardless, Henry is still treated as the same engine in the books and show, so I'm just going to assume that he is indeed still Henry. I guess he has a double barrel name, Henry Gresley Stanier? Okay. With Henry becoming a Stanier, this has opened the door to the Stanier engine family tree being a part of the Gresley. Remember earlier how I said Thomas met Mallard at the Great Railway Show? Well, he also met Duchess of Hamilton too, and guess who Duchess of Hamilton was designed by? Yep, you guessed right, Stanier, making him a distant cousin of Henry. So really, this book is just Thomas meeting Gordon's extended family. On the tree, I've labelled him down as Hamilton Stanier, making him Henry's cousin and Gordon's cousin-in-law? I don't know, this is getting weird. But then there's also Duchess of Loughborough, the royal engine from, well, the Royal Engine. Since she's a member of the class of Duchesses, I placed her here as Hamilton's sister, Loughborough Stanier. And yeah, that's the whole family tree, from Ryan Gresley to Loughborough Stanier. That is the full family tree of Gordon Gresley and technically his cousin, Henry Stanier. Now, there are a few non-canon engines from the Gresley and Stanier family tree that I left out, like the scrap models of Gordon that were sprinkled around the sets and used as dressing, although you could probably just headcanon those as Gordon's scrap brothers or something. And then there's those one-off recolors from Big World Adventures, such as Grey Henry or Grenry Stanier, and then there's Purple Henry or Penny Stanier, but I didn't include Grenry or Penny since those are very clearly non-canon engines to the lore of the series. So yeah, that is Gordon's family tree. Now unfortunately there aren't too many other weird and wacky family trees in the series, but let me know if there's any other family trees you'd like me to cover. Perhaps the Bullied family tree? Perhaps I could cover the Narrowgauge. I know their family tree's a bit weird. Perhaps I could cover how Rebecca is somehow related to Norman and technically Merlin. We can easily get bogged down in the technicalities of who's related to who, but we all know at the end of the day that Thomas and Friends is a series about found family. While yes, Edward isn't technically related to Bill and Ben, that doesn't stop him from being a father to them. While Toby and Henrietta are literally a tram and coach, that doesn't stop them from being an adorable allegory for a couple. And while Gordon and Henry may or may not be related, that doesn't stop them from being like brothers. And I think that's what makes the Thomas series so great. The fact that it is a story about these weird one-off characters who somehow find family on this island. The fact that these engines all found each other and found family is what makes this series so special and so unique. Thanks again for watching, and I also wanted to say thank you so much for 9,000 subscribers. I cannot possibly fathom that there are 9,000 people watching these videos. I've no idea what video I should do for 10,000, but like, if any of you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Slán Abhaile.